he asked me this question. I'm still not telling you the name of the case, but I hope Judge Staffel pushes this to a jury trial because I really want to talk to the jury. I just can't wait, really. I'm just chaffing at the bit. Come on, Judge Staffel, let's get the ball rolling. I think Judge Staffel is one of the few judges in this county that has not been on my show one time or another. Anyway, he gets to the zinger, okay? Now, those of you that know me personally know that I've been arrested for saying I love you to my own children. And a court in another jurisdiction over 1,000 miles away, over 2,000 miles away, when I went to visit my children, the mother wouldn't let me see my kids. And I think this is only the first or second time in 19 years I've even mentioned it. And it's the main reason I started doing the show. The injustice was so crazy on steroids, crack cocaine, and up the yin-yang. I'm talking about the justice system is on crack cocaine and up the yin-yang, okay? They said, well, look, she heard you, so you violated the restraining order when you said, I love you to your own children. She heard you, that violated the restraining order. Said, really? You guys got nothing better to do? So, well, we're going to put you on trial, but if you plead guilty, we'll let you go with a misdemeanor and you'll be out of here and blah, blah, we're all done. I said, no way in hell. You give me my jury trial and let me talk to the jury. Well, the judge cut me off, wouldn't let me say things to the jury. Again and again, finding this crooked judge in this teeny tiny county in Midwest state, he said, Mr. Wagener, if you say that one more time or try to say it, I'm going to hold you in contempt of court and I'm going to put you in prison for contempt of court. And I had a standby attorney. He says, don't say anything more. Well, I said a lot more things. The main thing that irritated me, I kept taking the picture of my two sons and holding it up so the judge could see it. That was at a hearing, not in front of the jury. But now I guess I did bring it up in front of the jury too. I'd hold the pictures. This is what this is all about. Dad going to see his own kids and mom just trying to make a mess out of it and just trying to get the kids to hate their father. Anyway, this resulted in a conviction. They made it 2 felonies. I guess she had 2 ears and she heard it in both ears. Or I signed 2 ORs on my own recognizance, one for OR and one for $500 bond. And they made that jury convict me for going to see my own children and say, I love you. Now, this guy deposing me just a couple days ago, I mean just 2 or 3 days ago. This is Friday, this was, I think, Tuesday of this week. He thinks I'm going to deny being convicted of a felony. He was so wrong. He asked me, have you ever been convicted of a felony? I said, yes. I went to see my kids, said, I love you boys, and they made that a felony. Well, he was like, They couldn't impeach my credibility on anything else. He thought I'd deny the felony. And this was like 21, 22 years ago. Has nothing to do with anything to do with a tree crushing a mobile home. Nothing to do with it at all. But see, if I had lied and said, no, I've never been convicted of a felony, he was, aha, then we can't trust anything you say. Well, he was crushed. They had another deposition to do another day. They bring in a different attorney. It wasn't me they deposed the next day, but that one, I think he had enough of me. So I would sure like to get these judges on a witness stand here in Honolulu. I'd like to see a grand jury indict them. And oh, by the way, I have it on a good source, and you won't see this anywhere on Fox, CNN, MSNBC. An attorney who's alleged to be a very crooked attorney named Sala in Hawaii just got indicted in Hawaii for stealing people's property. Just the very thing Anthony Williams was trying to stop. This guy finally got indicted. And I have that on a very inside source, and it's going to be all over the news in Hawaii. If it wasn't today, it will be tomorrow or the next day. And I would like to get an interview with Attorney Sala, but I'm pretty certain he don't want to say nothing. He wants to let his attorney file motions, delay it forever, and then just sort of make it go away or buy off the judge. End of story. But we'll see. I don't have much faith in the justice system run by the Bar Association and their associated criminals on the bench with black robes that used to be a member of the Bar Association, and then they set it aside while they're a judge. And then when they're done being a judge and getting their pension, they go back to being an attorney sometimes, or just hang their name with some, like Robert Sanger got, I think, who was it, Judge Garcia, to hang his shingle on their wall to give prestige to the attorney. Robert Sanger is an attorney I do not trust. He was the third attorney, and Thomas Mesereau put him aside. So anyway, I mentioned Sulla, who should be facing criminal charges probably Monday or Tuesday, and then they'll postpone it for a month. But I want to correct something I said on November 21st. This is from LBJ, the mastermind. One of the reasons you don't see me doing a show every single week anymore is because I'm getting old and my memory's slipping. And I made a misstatement on that show. What I said, and I'm correcting it now, is that they had this meeting at LBJ's ranch. That's not correct. On page 382 of LBJ, the mastermind of the JFK assassination, on page 382, I'm going to read, LBJ flew out, stayed at the Texas hotel to take a midnight trip in a private limousine some 30 miles over to the party at Dallas at Clint Murchison's home. His confidence grew that the plan would work. It would not only, but it would keep him, that is LBJ, out of prison and ensure his chance to become the great president that would fulfill his destiny. When he arrived at Murchison's mansion, his mentality would be simple, along the lines of, proceed as planned, it's now or never, unquote. That's the end of the paragraph, first paragraph on page 382 on this book. I highly recommend, and I get no kickbacks. Skyhorse Publishing put this out, skyhorsepublishing.com, www.skyhorsepublishing.com. New York, New York. Skyhorse, a small publisher. And the author of this book is Philip F. Nelson. See it down there by my finger? Philip F. Nelson. I really recommend, if you want to know all the evil people, and by the way, President Nixon was there at this meeting, along with LBJ, along with Clint Murchison, along with J. Edgar Hoover, who was in on the murder and was blackmailing most of the Congress so they would not replace him as FBI director. I wonder if the FBI director Mueller, when he was in power, if he was blackmailing people and still blackmailing them now to try to get them to impeach Trump. This book proves it wouldn't be the first time. And when most people didn't know then and still don't know and probably don't care 56 years later, is that everywhere LBJ lived in Washington, D.C., J. Edgar Hoover, head of the director of the FBI, would buy the house and live right next door. So they didn't have to send each other letters of members. They'd just go lean over the fence in the backyard and exchange information. So when Hoover was tapping JFK's private, secure line, by the way, back in 1963, there weren't a lot of private lines. Most of us, I think, even up to 1963 or 64, still had what they called community lines. And it would ring twice if it was yours, or it would ring 3 times if it was your neighbor's phone call. Private lines came in the mid to late 60s, I believe, at least in where I lived in Wisconsin at that time. Anyway, I want to correct it. The Murchison Party. And I just can't say enough about this book, but there's so much more I want to show you tonight. His mistress's full correct name was Madeline Brown. She wrote a book called Killing the Truth. Killing the Truth by Madeline Brown, who admits she was President Lyndon Baines Johnson's personal and very, very long-term mistress. One of several mistresses. And she's proud of that fact. She was proud of that fact to the day she died. I wonder what Lady Bird Johnson, President Johnson's wife, thought. Anyway, I recommend the book. What I quoted you was on page 382. And that's why I say, don't take my word for it. Go do your own research. And this book has lots of bibliography. So on November 21st, it was the anniversary of that meeting. And that's why I got a little excited and I didn't read it direct from the book. And I said at LBJ's ranch, it wasn't. It was, I believe, LBJ's ranch where he murdered his own sister, or had someone murder his sister to shut her up because she was a perennial drunk, and he was afraid she was going to say something that was going to get him in trouble. And by the way, if he hadn't been in on the killing of Jack Kennedy on the 22nd, before the end of November '63, there was a select committee in Congress was going to indict LBJ. Had to do with the Billy Saw Estes case and the murder of an agricultural agent, but all that's in the book. I can't recommend it enough. Just can't recommend enough. Now, before we go, are we ready to do that next thing? We're ready? Before we go to this little thing, it's a new documentary, and you can get the whole thing. It's called Square One. But before we go to that, I want to just mention there's a good dentist named Dr. Elaine Brown. She was the wife of Ed Brown, the constitutional ranger, as he called himself, who still, they're in their late 70s, costing the taxpayers $100,000 a year. It's cost us already over $2 million to keep these people locked up, and they committed no violence. Write President Trump. Call him at 202-456-1414 and say, please, while you're sitting on your backside watching this hoax impeachment, please just write out a pardon and get these guys out. These are nonviolent people. And maybe Elaine Brown would like to go back and practice dentistry again. I mean, she harmed nobody. And that's a whole story. We've done that before. Let's run Square One because I think this is an important documentary. We won't have time to show the whole thing. Here we go.
Who's got that? Do you have that?
Yep, we're ready, roll.
I have on the phone with me investigative journalist Charles Thompson, who is the winner of 6 national awards for his recent investigative work exposing the Shoebury pedophile ring. So Charles, you've sat in on a lot of pedophile cases. What would you say are the main differences between the cases that you've sat in on and the Michael Jackson case?
Well, of course, the first difference is that the cases I covered were all criminal cases where there was no real financial incentive to make an allegation. So the motive of seeking millions of dollars is removed. And then in the cases where we've seen convictions that I've been sitting in, you had victims who were credible, who were consistent, and that's never been the case in the allegations against Michael Jackson. They've never been consistent. They've always turned out to be perjurers and people who are just looking for a payout.
Michael Jackson was one of the most famous people on the planet. It turns out he was also the target of intensive FBI scrutiny.
Charles, I have also read that you have extensively studied the Michael Jackson FBI files. What are the findings of the FBI files and whether child porn was ever discovered at Neverland?
No child porn was ever found at Neverland, and in fact, there was a story that some child porn had been found around the time of the trial, and so the judge and the prosecutor both released a stipulation publicly, which was that no child pornography had ever been found at Neverland, at Michael Jackson's properties. So that's not just something that fans say, that's the judge in the trial. And even the prosecutor said that there was no child porn. In terms of what the FBI files tell us, what they tell us is that for over a decade, the FBI was intermittently involved in investigating Michael Jackson. There's no evidence of sustained surveillance or sustained investigation, only of the authorities occasionally calling on the FBI to assist them with their investigations. But nonetheless, the files tell us that more than 20 different FBI departments investigated Michael Jackson at one time or another, and none of them found any evidence of any wrongdoing. Perhaps the most compelling piece of information that came out of those files was when the prosecutors in the 2003-5 Arvizo case sent away all of the computers that they seized from Neverland for FBI analysis, and the FBI was unable to find anything incriminating on a single one of them. So the FBI files alone don't exonerate Michael Jackson, but they certainly don't incriminate him.
And in 2005, there was a study done by ABC with the top psychiatrists in the country, and they've all concluded that Michael Jackson's behavior would be very rare amongst pedophiles. And there are other psychologists and psychiatrists who echoed that belief.
Derselbe Vater hat noch vor 2 Jahren im Interview gesagt, es hätte seinem Sohn nicht geschadet und Eltern sollten ihre Kinder ruhig öfter schlagen, und immerhin hätte er seinen Sohn so geschlagen, dass er jetzt eben die Nummer 1 im Pop-Business gewesen wäre. Vor diesem Vater hat er Angst gehabt. Auf der anderen Seite hat er immer die Liebe seines Vaters gesucht, und derselbe Vater hat sich über sein Gesicht, über seine Akne, über seine Nase mokiert. Und er wollte dem Vater gefallen. Man würde sagen, eigentlich perverserweise oder paradoxerweise, weil er hat ja Angst gehabt, aber er hat die Liebe des Vaters nie bekommen. Und dieser Liebe läuft er zeitlebens hinterher. Und was er jetzt macht, ist, dass er Kinder um sich sammelt, selber Kinder haben will, um eigentlich diesen Kindern Vater zu sein. Er ist also Kind und Vater in einer Person. Und das, was er mit den Kindern macht, macht er eigentlich mit sich selber. Also im Herzen eigentlich ein ganz reiner, ein ganz guter, ein ganz gutmütiger, ein ganz naiver Mensch.
Someone who is always trying to dispute that notion is a man named Jim Clemente. Jim Clemente to this day believes that Michael Jackson does fit the profile of a pedophile and that Michael Jackson did have child porn at Neverland.
They also found images, and I think they were of a photo shoot with Michael Jackson's nephew, Taj. I think he was still a teenager. And there's a picture that's on the internet that it's a picture of Michael. Can you see that?
Oh my, yes, yes.
So there are pictures in this series where he's actually grabbing that cloth and trying to rip it off him, laughing and joking and trying to get him naked. And he's virtually naked in this picture. This is his nephew, this 40-something-year-old man. And why is he posing in a picture where Michael's shirt is open, exposing his chest, and this kid's chest, he's
basically naked.
Upper body is basically naked. He's got no underwear on, right next to Michael Jackson. It's disgusting.
My name is Taj Jackson. I'm the nephew of Michael Jackson. I know it's not going to be put to rest, but I hope that it's really put to rest, because these pictures have been circulating. These pictures are annoying that they're circulating. We sued one of the tabloids because they said that they were child pornography, and we had them retract that because that's not what they were. They were for an album. They were for a single cover. Why? Michael was doing the music video for A Stranger in Moscow. at the time, and we came down to visit him, but also we were like, let's take this opportunity, since we're all here, let's do the Y photo shoot as well. There was wardrobe, there was a camera director, there was make. We wanted to do something edgy for our Y photo shoot. We wanted the guys and the girls, and we thought we were too cute, as 3T, like too saccharine, and we wanted to have some edge, some, something to us. It's frustrating because this is what they do all the time in this way. Luckily, I was involved in it. This was my younger brother, TJ. If he was here, he'd be even probably more upset than I am right now. Like, it's implied that TJ was clueless or TJ didn't know what was going on. TJ was very aware of what's going on. TJ wanted him to go farther. I was uncomfortable taking off my shirt, and so I didn't have to take off my shirt. It was never like he said, no, you take off your shirt and you do this and that. It was whatever we wanted to do because we wanted to be edgy. And it worked because people are talking about it. Now, unfortunately, they're trying to dirty it, but it was edgy. He mentioned that, Michael's laughing on that because we were joking. For us, we wanted to do something edgy, but we always laughed when we were around my uncle, and he laughed when he was around us. And so that should tell you something, that there was no tension. You're not seeing our faces like we don't want to do this or whatever, because we were pushing him to do this. It makes me feel angry, to be honest, just because that photo shoot was a great memory for me, and to hear someone try and dirty it up in that way, the way they're trying to twist it as if my uncle came and said, hey, I'm just going to start ripping off clothes. That's farthest from the truth. There's plenty of people there, that witnessed everything, that would back up, my story or my uncle's story if he was alive. But at the same time, this guy who basically is just guessing what happened at the photo shoot by pictures. What gets me upset is just people, outside people, judging my uncle without knowing the scenario. One thing I do want to say is, people like that just, on the outside, and he's supposed to be a professional, and you hear him, he sounds giddy. He sounds like someone that is just spiteful and hateful. And it's those kind of people, they need something in their life. They really do. Leave our family alone.
You never done things and it was like just missing in your life, you just go back to do it. And Mike just liked to just have great fun, and the stuff he liked to do, adults don't like doing that.
I think you had more fun hanging out with just everyday people that you didn't even know who they were. Either they were local people or tourists or whatever, and he didn't know who they were. Just meet them, talk to them, and get to know them a little bit. Hey, we're not their age.
You were invited to Michael Jackson's Neverland before.
It was amazing. I've been there probably 8 times. I spent the night. The first time I ever went was actually the time I spent the night. He walked us through his entire house. His bedroom, his memorabilia room, bathrooms, every place in his house. We were like telling him how beautiful it was, and he was like, "You've never been here before?" And my friends and I looked at each other like, no, we sure haven't. Like, when would we have been here, So he would invite, if there were fans sitting outside, he would see us and tell Violet, who was security, to let us in. And he would just let us do whatever.
So that speaks volume to just how easily he trusts people to come into his life even.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he trusted a lot of people he shouldn't have trusted in his life.
Is that, they go, oh, you slept in the same bedroom as him. It's like, I don't think you understand. Michael Jackson's bedroom is 2 stories. And it has like 3 bathrooms and this and that. So when I slept in his bedroom, but you have to understand the whole scenario. And the thing is with Michael, is that he's not very good at explaining himself. And he never really has been.
Michael Jackson, his bedroom was 2 stories. So when you first walked in, I didn't realize at first it was his bedroom because his bed wasn't there on the bottom floor. But it was kind of very cluttered with a lot of things. I actually sat on his bed, and he was just kind of talking about Neverland to us, and that was surreal.
Michael was going to Miami, so myself and a couple of friends flew in from Europe to spend some time with him. And before he had to go, he told us that we could stay and that we could enjoy Neverland as much as we wanted. While the ranch manager took us to the main house, he told me that Michael had said to give us the royal treatment. And we sure got the royal treatment. When we went up to the main house, all the staff were lined up on the stairs welcoming us. And they told us that we could move around as freely as we wanted to. There were no places that were off limits.
And this was 16 years ago, so it's been a while, but I just remember like being completely in shock the whole time. Most people are just, I can't believe that he let us in his house like that.
Several weeks later, after we'd already come back to classes after 9/11, I was working as a work study in the music department, so he came in to register for private guitar lessons. He always carried his guitar with him everywhere he went. And we had a nice conversation. He remembered me from our program meeting. We had a little chat, exchanged pleasantries, and he gave me his form. And as I went to register him for these private lessons, I saw his name for the first time, which was Jordan Chandler. And I believe he told me his first name, but I didn't know his last name at that point. And when I saw Jordan Chandler on a piece of paper, it just,
Well, that's called Square One, and that's something brand new. You can find on YouTube. I strongly recommend you watch the whole thing. Michael Jackson was completely innocent, just like his nephew Taj said. The thing I want you to understand about Square One is nobody in this whole mini documentary on YouTube called Square One, nobody was paid to say anything. Everybody you're hearing talking did it without any pay of any kind. That's told you in the beginning strings, which were hard to read on our broadcast signal here. And I want to go back and catch a few more minutes, but before I do, what you find out that nobody in the corporate media is telling you is there was a guy named Victor Gutierrez and other bad actors that were making up lies, trying to connect Michael to NAMBLA, which stands for National Association of Boy Love Association or something like that, where they try to legalize pedophilia and they try to get people to connect. This was a setup to use Michael, to dirty him up and use his name to try to move society from a Christian, society where it was, boundaries. You don't mess with little boys 7, 8, 9, 15 years old. You don't do that. To change it where it's okay. That's what NABLA is all about. I don't talk about it much because I think it's so disgusting. It's a subject to be discussed after 1 in the morning when nobody's watching TV, hopefully. Anyway, back to this Square One, a few more minutes, and then I want to bring you to something Thomas Measure said, and I have it on film. Here we go.
Had that to say.
The King of Pop chalks up a big win. A jury has awarded Michael Jackson a whopping $2.7 million for a defamation lawsuit he filed against freelance writer Victor Gutierrez. Gutierrez claimed on a tabloid TV show that he'd seen a video of Jackson having sex with a boy.
This guy made it up out of thin air, maliciously to hurt Michael, and he told anybody and everybody who would listen when it came time to prove it in this court, he couldn't prove it.
Years later, in the early 2000s, Victor Gutierrez again started spreading rumors regarding sexual abuse, this time around the involvement of politicians in Chile. A boy claimed he participated in these sexual activities and was able to describe stories with vivid details. It was later proven in court that the boy had never met this politician.
It's very short.
While questioned, the boy could not even remember the politician's name. It had to be prompted by Victor Gutierrez off camera. It was later discovered that Gutierrez had paid this child around 10 to 20,000 pesos. There were no other witnesses, nor proof, just the words of a boy who were connected to Victor Gutierrez. the same man who was connected to Evan Chandler.
And we also weren't, and I've been very transparent.
Go see Square One. It's on YouTube. If you can't get YouTube, go to a friend's house, watch it. So many people have still the wrong idea that Michael got away with something. He got away with nothing. He was crucified for 5 months with liar after liar after liar, and they were all turned inside out by Thomas Mesereau. And here's Thomas Mesereau at an event down in Los Angeles that I staged and filmed. Listen to what Tom Mesereau, who won this case for Michael Jackson with the help of Susan Yu. Listen to him.
Big hand.
Recorded. I got this thing in my pocket and it fell out. So first of all, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for the kind invitation, William, to speak. You know, I don't care if an organization is large or small or rich or poor. If it stands for the right principles, I'm with it. That's right. And anyone who is devoting any time out of their busy life to promote the reality that Michael Jackson was completely innocent of these horrific charges, and that Michael Jackson was one of the kindest, nicest, most sensitive, most giving people on the planet, I'm with you. I'm behind you. Okay, that's what I believe. You know, I'm a criminal defense lawyer. It's my profession. I really love my profession. I have a great belief that we, as criminal defense lawyers, have done more to promote freedom in this country than almost any other group I can think of. And we're often attacked, we're often vilified, we're often ridiculed. We fight very, very stiff odds most of the time, but we make people prove their cases, we protect our freedoms, and we make sure, as best we can, that innocent people go free. And I will tell you in no uncertain terms, Michael Jackson was 100% innocent of his horrible. Now, when I get into a case, I try to keep my objectivity. I don't necessarily believe the client or anyone else. I don't believe the prosecutors, I don't believe the police, but I don't necessarily believe the client. Till I find out for myself what the evidence is, who the client is, who the witnesses in the case are, for and against, and I start to gradually form my own conclusions about what I'm going to do. So when I first met Michael Jackson, I was in Florida, not far from Orlando. His brother Randy had called me. I'd known him for many years. We used to socialize once in a while. I'd never represented anyone in the Jackson family. And he called me and he said, we don't like the lawyers we have. And my brother, you know, has always been interested in meeting you. And we spoke to the late Johnny Cochran, who thinks you're the one to defend him, which was very nice of Johnny. I'll always be indebted to him. Yes. And I flew down and I met Michael. And he was very quiet, very shy. He said very little. Randy did most of the talking. I was being questioned in front of Michael by Randy and others so that Michael could make a decision as to whether or not I was the one he wanted to represent him. And I told everything I was asked about my background, my upbringing, my education, my career, the kinds of cases I had tried. And I left Orlando not knowing whether I'd ever hear from him again. And about 3 weeks later, Randy called and said they wanted me to be his defense attorney. And I said to Randy, I assume you've been talking to a lot of other people. He said, no. He said, when Michael heard you, he said he wanted you, which was just a very great surprise to me. But nevertheless, one thing led to another, and I became his defense attorney. It was a great honor and a great privilege, but it was also a great challenge, because as I think everyone here knows, the media was 100% against him all over the world. Yes. They were just absolutely having a field day trying to torture this poor soul, who was bewildered and terrified, a creative genius, a sensitive humanitarian, not someone built for a criminal courtroom, let's face it. And this was a long, painful ordeal. This trial lasted almost 5 months. We were there 5 days a week. So for 5 days a week, all day, Michael had to sit there listening to people say that he was was a mafia don type who had organized a criminal conspiracy to falsely imprison a family, to abduct children, and to commit criminal extortion. That he was a child molester of the most malicious type who took a cancer-ridden child, plied him with alcohol that could have poisoned the child to soften him up for the crime of child molestation. That he had organized other people to help him commit these kinds of crimes. That he had intentionally and maliciously and manipulatively given alcohol to underage children for his own selfish purposes. I mean, these charges were bad. Okay? These charges were horrific. You know, Americans are fascinated by homicide cases, and I defend homicide cases. But American people are more repelled by child molestation charges than they are by murder charges. This is the worst kind of thing you can try and pin on any human being. And I guess what I have to tell you is that I occupied a chapter in Michael's life that was very, very dark and very, very evil in terms of what he had to go through, what people were trying to do to him in order to profit themselves. I've never seen a media onslaught in any criminal case this bad. I really haven't. I don't know if any of you remember the week the jury was deliberating. All of the cable stations were showing jail cells on TV every day where he was supposed to end up. The intent was to condition the jury and hopefully influence them to convict.
That's right.
I've never seen it in any case. If any of you have ever seen jail cells on TV every day on every major cable station deliberating a case, tell me where it was, because I never have. Okay, never have. And the documentaries on television leading up to that trial, the reports on who the witnesses were supposed to be, the reports on the 1993 case were absolutely scandalous and disturbing and horrific. And they were designed to do one thing and one thing only, convict. Why? Not for justice, for ratings and revenue. Because the ratings and the revenue were in a conviction. One very prominent person in the music industry told me after the trial, you cost the music industry billions of dollars when you acquitted him. Because they were looking forward to having him arrested right away, taken to jail. There'd be a month or two build up to the sentencing, which would be the biggest sentencing in the history of the world, sentencing Michael Jackson to probably 20 years in state prison. He would have been not dressed the way he normally dressed. He wouldn't have had his makeup on. He would have been living in a jail cell in isolation for months. During those months, they would have been reporting on information from the jail. Is he going to commit suicide? What is he eating? What is he reading? Who's visiting him? This was going to be a ratings bonanza if Michael Jackson were convicted. And they wanted a ratings bonanza. They were not there for justice. They were there for ratings, revenue, and big business. So they tried to spin what was good for their business. They didn't care whether it was just or not. And their goal was to report whatever they felt would help them achieve their objective. They only just needed one thing more. They needed a jury verdict of guilty. And that's what they tried their best to create. Now, William said something I think he believes that I don't totally agree with. He thinks Mr. Snedden brought the case not caring whether he could win or not. I don't believe that. I think Mr. Snedden and his cohorts thought they could win, and I think they convinced themselves they had a good case. And I think the media and the prosecution reinforced each other's beliefs that there was going to be a conviction in the case. They all had separate but similar interests in a conviction. There's something in this country that likes to see people go way up and then come down and splatter. It makes for good TV. It makes for good shows. It makes for revenue. Everybody in the media wants shock value these days, reality shows. One show on a gory homicide case after another. But seeing Michael Jackson sent to prison was going to be one of the most dramatic events in world history, they thought. Now, when you get into a case like that, you have forces coming at you from every angle. You have the media trying to attack you. You have other lawyers trying to get into the case, going around your back to family members, trying to get to Michael, trying to maneuver you out because they want to be in the case. You've got to be careful of witnesses because they're all trying to profit somehow. Not all of them. Some of them are very honorable, but some of them are not. And some of them want to find a way to make a splash with the media, publish a book, get television interviews, whatever. And this was the most media-saturated trial in the history of America. You had over 2,200 accredited media, which is more media than covered the O.J. Simpson and the Scott Peterson cases combined. So you're kind of trying to navigate through this sea of distractions and focus on what it takes to win. But fortunately, we have a jury system, and while it's not perfect, because people are never perfect, and while mistakes are made because people make mistakes, I think the jurors generally try to do their best to follow their oath, look at the evidence carefully, follow the judge's jury instructions, and do what's fair and correct. I think American juries try to do that. They don't always succeed at it, but they try. And the media is not as powerful in the end as they think they are.
Amen.
They said O.J. Simpson would be convicted, he was acquitted. They said Robert Blake would be convicted, he was acquitted. They said Michael Jackson would be convicted, he was acquitted. They recently said Casey Anthony in Florida would be convicted, she was acquitted. So I truly believe that when someone...
And I truly believe there are very few attorneys as qualified, as gentlemen, as Thomas Mesereau in Los Angeles or Michael Mins in the state of Houston, Texas. Susan Yu is also a credit to humanity, as is Michael Mins, and that man I taped about a decade ago in Los Angeles at a special event to raise money for the Michael Jackson Innocent Forever Foundation. Those three attorneys I trust. Everyone else, including my nephew and my cousins who are attorneys, I don't trust. The guy deposing me a couple of days ago, I don't trust. And the guy on the other side opposing the guy who was trying to tear me apart, I don't trust. I think we need to abolish the Bar Association, and we need to put a lot of judges and attorneys on trial after they're indicted by a grand jury of we the people. Too many people can't get justice in a year or 6 months. It takes years. All that is ka-ching, 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 billable hours for attorneys. So here's what you can do. You can actually do something. First of all, send a Christmas card to Dr. Elaine. Dr. Elaine, that's E-L-A-I-N-E Brown. Her prisoner number is 03924-049. Dr. Elaine Brown, she's sitting in a prison near Fort Worth, Texas. P.O. Box 27137. Remember Scripture, if you're a real Christian, if you really truly believe that there's a God and you care about what that God thinks, he said through the Scriptures of the New Testament, take care to visit those who are in bonds. Well, you may not be able to visit her, but you can send her a Christmas card. Send her a Christmas card. Say, William Wagener saw it on the show, and as one of we the people, you send her a Christmas card and wish her hope. The point is, I then want you to write to Attorney General Bill Barr, which you can find. His address is, just write him a short note, say, President Trump was going to give pardons to all the nonviolent offenders, which Elaine Brown, Dr. Elaine Brown, a dentist, and her husband Ed Brown are nonviolent people. They never should have been in prison. They're like 78 or 79, maybe they're even 80 years old now, I forget. But the address is Honorable Attorney General William P. Barr, 950 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20530. And just say to Attorney General William Barr, get a full pardon as a Christmas gift to the Browns. And write Dr. Elaine Brown, there's her address, write it down right now, because I may not show it again. She's in the Federal M Correctionals, Carswell, FMC Carswell, P.O. Box 27137, Fort Worth, Texas. And just write her a Christmas card and say you heard about her. Her only crime was standing by her husband, people. And he basically said, Irwin Schiff was correct. There is no right by the IRS or any other bogus corporation incorporated in Puerto Rico to tax the American people. Irwin Schiff was correct. In fact, a guy that discovered Beth Midler, Aaron Russo, did a whole film that should have been seen by the entire country called From Freedom to Fascism. And on that film, Aaron Russo, who I interviewed several times and ran most of his film on this show, and I guess I'll have to run it again because I can see the blank stares out there. Ernie Armenta does not know what I'm talking about, but I'm glad you talked to the city council, Ernie. And thanks to the general manager of Santa Maria for getting the broadcast equipment upgraded and finally installed, since we had no broadcast since mid-June of this year till about a week ago, and they're still getting everything. The live streaming isn't quite working yet. Should have been, but it isn't. But they're getting there, and thank you for the improved equipment. So write Attorney General Bill Barr and say, free Ed Brown and Dr. Elaine Brown. Then call the White House. The number is 202-456-1414. Call President Trump and say, hey, while this impeachment hoax is going on and you can't get any good legislation through this Democrat House of Representatives, at least pardon 2 nonviolent elderly citizens whose only crime was to sit in their solar-powered, wind-powered house on a hill in New Hampshire, ignore the rest of the world, and just say, we're not paying income taxes. That isn't even a crime. That's following the Constitution. And that's what's wrong. That's why this is Take Back America, right here. Right here, Take Back America, where I'm putting my hat. Take Back America. You do it in increments. It isn't going to come with a violent revolution, because if we have a violent revolution, what will follow will be absolute tyranny. The chaos will be so bad, people will beg to have a tyrant just to bring peace and order again. And that's what Nancy Pelosi, that senile speaker, my God, the woman should have retired a decade ago. She's senile. She can't speak unless she reads it 10 times before she goes in front of the microphone. She can't deal with questions spontaneously. She goes back to her same old sing-song. Hunter Biden should be under indictment. And that's what all this Trump impeachment noise is about. And to hide the pedophiles that Trump has got under trial for being a pedophile right now. But that's a whole show. We're not going to get to that till after Christmas, probably. But I wanted you to know that Trump pardoned the Hammonds, who never should have gone to jail in the first place for doing a controlled burn. That's nutty. But see, wicked, senile old biddies like Nancy Pelosi, they don't care if you put a rancher and his father, his son, in prison. They don't care. They absolutely don't care. As long as you let thousands of criminals come in with desperate Latino people, ignore our boundaries, violate our laws, crap all over our cities, meanwhile, they want to indict the only president who's actually got the economy going, in spite of all the negative stuff the House has done to stop Trump He's done a lot of good things. First thing he did is exempt people from going to prison if they couldn't pay the minimum health care bill on tax days, April 15th. That was an Obama trick. He passed this law called Obamacare. Oh, everyone's going to get free insurance. But he put a zinger in there. If you're too poor and you can't even afford to pay the minimum, you go to prison. But it doesn't take an effect until Obama's out of office. Trump came in and said, executive order, nobody's going to prison because you can't pay. How is that bad? He's helping the Democrats. The people that vote Democrats are so poor, they want everything for free. They don't want to have to work for it. He's trying to get the minimum wage up. Democrats don't want to talk about that. They don't want him to get credit for raising the minimum wage. I guarantee you, he is not going to be impeached. It's not going to happen. So please, write Attorney General Bill Barr. There's the address again. Honorable Attorney General William P. Barr, 950 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20530, and just say free ad in Elaine, Dr. Elaine Brown. And then write Dr. Elaine Brown a Christmas card. FMC Carlswell, P.O. Box 27139. Now let's put in that last video with the dancer. You've sung through all this stuff, people, and I appreciate you hanging in. Please write this. And here's Budai. Her name's Booty, or Budai. And she was dancing at a Michael Jackson event to liven up the crowd. And she's got some pretty curves. I thank you for watching. Please send those cards and letters to Dr. Elaine Brown and the Attorney General. And don't forget Anthony Williams in Honolulu lockup. Write them a card, a letter, say you saw it here. We ready to roll that?
I don't know.
It's in the...
It's got you in the picture?
No. It's a deck. It's a big deck sitting there in front of you. I got to do everything. And they don't pay me to do this show, by the way. 19 plus years I've been doing this show and never got paid by anybody in this studio to do the show. I do it because I care, and I want you to care. Be a good Christian. Send them a Christmas card. Booty was there just to cheer up the crowd. Are we ready to roll that? Should be rolling.
Yeah, it should be. Let me see if this volume sounds like it.
Okay. Right, I'm going to get out of the pictures. You can see this better. And right to that number. No, it's on the big tape, right?
It was two big tapes. You had two big tapes over here.
This one, right?
And that one had you on the front of it.
Then you had it in the wrong place. What is this here?
And where are we?
This is your tape. This isn't my tape. This is yours.
Doesn't matter, we're out.
We're still live online, though. So you
Well, run it. That's it.
Alrighty then.
Natasha Bodie. You guys want to see me dance Tom Snedden? Would you like? No, don't run away, people. Okay, let's see Natasha dance at the rally. Capture E. Yay, yay, yay.